Welcome back to Worldview. Now, Dr. David Pensak was here yesterday to discuss with us a little bit about some of the theories of innovation and some of the ways in which innovation is being used both in science and in business. He joins us here for part two of the interview. Dr. Pensak, why is it that so many companies are so hidebound, seeing only cost and this quarter's results versus real opportunity, and they seem to fight innovation at every turn?
Well, part of it is the way companies structure themselves. Let's imagine you are an outside consultant, and management brings you in because you know innovation or you can make suggestions. That is a big slap in the face to the people who are already working there. Management is saying, you're not good enough, so I have to bring somebody in from the outside. The people who want to keep their jobs have to discredit the person who comes in from the outside, or otherwise they will lose their jobs. So you have to turn the whole model around so that people get rewarded for working with innovators rather than their jobs are threatened by the existence of an innovator.
Let's talk failure for a moment. Now, I'm so grateful for the failures in my own life because they've taught me how not to do something. Yet everything from business to relationships, etc., and it's really been helpful to me. Why is it that failure is still so taboo inside of businesses and organizations?
It's taboo because of a labeling problem. Management says that there's two outcomes if you try something. You succeed or you fail. They're leaving out the third case, which is you did everything very well, but because of forces you knew nothing about or could not control, you didn't succeed. So instead of rewarding people for making a good effort, we penalize them.
You know, as a journalist, Dr. Pensak, I'm always focused like a laser on asking engaging questions and then trying to get out of the way and wait for the answer. Is innovation inspirational or aspirational? Meaning, how do you make sure you're asking the right questions in order to foster innovation?
That's an interesting question and quite a challenge, because the way innovation is taught in most schools and companies is you identify an itch or something that you think needs to be addressed, and then you're asked, come up with a solution, then turn around and say, how do I get to the end state from here? What they don't do is go through an iterative process of taking the concept of the opportunity and expanding it, making it more specific, and iterating it back and forth several times. You have to get to the point where you make a list. Any solution to this problem must have at least the following characteristics. Then you can start looking for something that will solve the problem. If you jump, you're assuming otherwise that your first idea is always the best, and it's never been that way for me. I have big boxes of things that I've tried that were absolute failures, and I'm saving them so some archaeologist someday is going to find them and try to figure out what on earth was going on in my head.
Well, you know, it's often been said about Edison that he turned around when asked about being such a failure at creating the electric storage battery. His reply was, are you kidding? I now know 99 ways not to store electricity. Is it a bit like that with you?
Very much like that. But what's been great fun, I've been blessed with all kinds of friends in all kinds of disciplines, and they will say things or I'll hear things that give me ideas, because you can't fix a problem you don't know about. And I'll just give you one example. I was at a meeting in Washington almost 2 years ago. Wound up sitting next to a guy who had been the medical director for Air Force One. And he told me proudly that they had put a special refrigerator on the plane, so when the president or anybody else travels, they can have several units of typed and cross-matched blood right there on the plane. But when the plane lands, they keep the blood in the refrigerator on the plane and have a car and driver standing by. And I just about screamed, that doesn't work. If he needs blood, he needs now, not an hour from now when you can get it to him by car. Well, the Secret Service people looked at me like I was very naive and said, we are not going to be walking around the capitals of the world carrying a styrofoam cooler with a presidential seal on it. Well, it took all of about 15 minutes to figure out how to deal with the problem. There are a class of chemicals which maintain very constant temperature. So I went out to a luggage store. I bought a battered old leather briefcase. I lined it with some insulation and my special constant temperature stuff. And now you can put up to 3 bags of blood or ringers or saline in it and close up the briefcase and off you go. So when the president or vice president travels now, they have their blood maybe 5 or 6 feet away from them in case they need it. And nobody even knows about it because it's a beat-up briefcase. But I never would have thought of this problem if I hadn't heard what seemed to be a inexplicably unreasonable solution.
Next, we might see you on the next edition of Breaking Bad, the movie, because it sounds like it's all chemistry.
That's one example, but I'll give you another one. I have a son who is now 16 years old, and he's just at that age when he likes to wear his slacks low down over his hips. And teenage boys love to pull on each other's slacks and see if they can make the pants go down. Well, I worked out a way using some special magnets which we sew into the waistband of the slacks, and then we negotiate every morning how low his slacks can go, given where he's going to be, and we tape corresponding magnets to his back so it can go down far enough. Then it's about a 200-pound pull to get it any further. We're negotiating with one clothing manufacturer who wants to bring it out on the trade name The Butt Stops Here. There it gets even more fun. My middle daughter wears a very large-sized bra. Since I've never worn one, I had no idea that by the end of the day, women with ample chests are in real pain because all the weight of the mammary tissue is being held on just 2 very thin straps. And it didn't take long to realize we think about magnets as attracting, but if you flip them over, they repel. So now I've made straps for her with reverse magnets. So instead of pushing down on her shoulders, magnets are repelling and spreading the force over a much larger area. She says she's just in heavenly comfort right now and wishes there was a Nobel Prize for pain reduction. So she's even starting a company now based on this, which she wants to call the Boob Tube.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to make this segue, but my next question has to do with climate change. And, we speak with a number of very sobering climate change experts here on this program. And frankly, the science itself is becoming very scary. Yet I read about your creation of a biodegradable additive that mixed with animal manure in agricultural settings causes the fermentation to become aerobic rather than anaerobic, and that decreases the smell, nitrogen, and phosphorus runoff and stabilizes the soil. I guess my question is, can something be innovated along those lines to both save our oceans and the food chain, and if so, how?
Well, absolutely it can. About 60% of the energy of gasoline goes out the tailpipe of your car as waste heat. That's a major source of heat pollution and waste. There are a class of solid-state materials which are called thermoelectrics, which will directly convert heat into electricity. So I took the tailpipe off my lawnmower and put a new pipe that I loaded with these thermoelectric materials and tied that to a jug of water. So as the engine is running, the heat is generating electricity. The electricity breaks the water into hydrogen and oxygen, and I pipe the oxygen back into the carburetor. I'm getting 30% more efficiency because the oxygen that my lawnmower breathes now is rich in oxygen, much more so than normal air. And if it runs out, it goes back to where it used to be, and water is my only new ingredient. But what makes this fun, and this is why I'm going to carry this one for the rest of my life, when I was doing the patent write-up, I discovered the very first patent on these thermoelectric materials was issued to my father 20 years before I was born, and I've had no knowledge he'd ever even worked in the area.
The apple clearly has not fallen far from the tree. Dr. Pensak, it's been a real pleasure talking today. We'll have to do this again and solve some more global problems. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Dr. David Pensak is someone whose class I want to fly over and audit at the Delaware Business School, where he's currently on faculty, as well as Drexel University's College of Medicine. He joined us today from his home in Wilmington, Delaware. His book, Underdogs, How to Make the Leap from What If to Now What, is a must-read. You're watching Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Stay right here.